Hey, what's going on, guys? The cat is out the bag. The GodLogic shirts are out. Click the link in the description and head on over to godlogicclothing.com to purchase our first release. We just read. Let's go. I'll see you guys with a shirt. Peace.
Yeah. So your contentions are the history of Christianity, how stuff came about, and so as far as like with Islam, because I like to talk to people where they are.
Yeah,
I don't want to come at you with stuff that you don't know or something like that, but just particularly your own conviction on why Islam is true to you, and then we can, I guess, go from there.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
So what would you say is the best reason why you say Islam is true? What convinces you?
Number one reason would be the Quran itself.
Okay.
Yeah, the Quran itself. I would say the preservation of it, seeing manuscript evidence of it, of not it only being preserved orally, but also through manuscripts. Not only that, but I guess this isn't evidence, right? But I feel like everybody can kind of tie this in. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not talking about that because it's personal experience. Yeah. I'm not going to tie that in because I'd rather be more evidence based. You know what I mean?
Okay, so more objective.
So, yeah.
Okay, so objectively, you're saying the Quran, it's preservation.
Yeah, it's
and that's what. So what do you mean? But when you say preservation, because everybody kind of has a different view. Like obviously with Christians, our view of preservation is as long as the message and theology is consistent in the manuscripts, we're good, even if there's textual variants. For you, what do you mean by preservation?
Yeah, I would say everything that you said, but without the textual variants.
Okay,
yeah.
So no textual variants, word for word, letter for letter, the same.
Yeah, not just the manuscripts, but also how it's memorized.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. So we could work with that. So have you looked into that in depth?
I haven't looked at it as deep as I have in Christianity, but I have looked into it though.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
because again, my specialty is more in Christianity.
Yeah.
In Islam, obviously, I know enough to the point where I converted, but not obviously. It's been 1 year as a Muslim. 4 years as a Christian is a lot more time. So
you're absolutely right. So have you heard of the different Arabic versions of the Quran, like Warsh, Hafs?
I've heard
stuff like
of this claim, but I haven't looked into it.
Okay, so what it is they'll say that they're called, and forgive my pronunciation, but Qur'an. That's what they call it, right? They'll say it's different modes of recitation, right?
Okay.
However,
right.
Yeah. So you'll have 7 canonical readings, right? These are the standard readings that are really authoritative. You have Hafs, Qanun, Warsh, Duri, Ibn Kathir, Kasai, and Al-Hamza, right? Now there's others, but these are like the main 7, okay? And I would say, to be gracious, for the most part they're the same. However, they do have textual variants in them.
Okay.
And they have textual variants where there are some that change the meaning, like the context of the verse will change depending on what you do. Like, here's one that I bring about, if you seen, but I brought it up to Sheikh Uthman before, or it's the easiest one that I know. But there's one in the Hafs Quran, or which is the normal Quran that most people use. In chapter 37, verse 12, it'll say, where Allah speaketh to Muhammad, that you were surprised when the disbelievers mocked, right? You wondered why they mocked, right? In the Hamza version of the Quran, and these are all Arabic, it's not English, it's Arabic.
Yeah.
It's Allah saying, I was surprised while they mocked, or I wondered, right? Now, some will say, well, that's not a contradiction, Muhammad was surprised while they mocked. Allah was, wondering or surprised, not in a sense that he doesn't know, but just it's figure of speech or whatever, right? Which is cool. I don't mind however they interpret that. However, that changes, right? You have Muhammad who's the one who's being surprised, then Allah's the one. That changes the meaning of the entire context, right? So you have these type of differences in there. Now, I know you said you haven't looked into that, but
yeah, I mean, I'm more than happy to look into it and then get back to you as soon as I can. So that's not an issue,
Good.
Any claim people want to bring to me, I'm more than willing to look at it.
Perfect.
The same way that people will tell me like I'm closed-minded, it's like I was open-minded to the point where I changed my entire religion that I practiced for 4 years, And I
Thanks, man.
If you watch, thank you, bro. And if you watch the video too of when me and him spoke to each other,
he got himself a tea.
I know, right?
He
gave me the toilet water.
But he got
exactly. It always says like that.
What is this? This is great. You want some? You good? Man, yeah, I'm telling you.
Nah, I'm okay. Thank you, bro. Yeah, I'm good.
We're all right. Thanks, man.
But basically, like when me and him spoke, I kind of talked about that, about how like I wasn't born into the religion, so my parents are Mexican
Yeah.
and they're Catholic just by title because that's the culture,
Yeah.
but they don't take it serious. And so I found it on my own when I was 19, and I ended up accepting Christianity when I was 19, all the way up till I was 23.
Yep.
22. Sorry, 18 to 22, and so or like right before I turned 19. And so anyway, yeah, I'm more than happy to look into whatever you bring to me.
Good. Yeah. Okay. I want to give you some sources,
Yeah,
some
anything-
references.
yeah, anything you wanna give me.
We'll use our phones and stuff like that. So, if you go on your phone, do you there's a website. It's called Sunnah.com.
Oh,
You
yeah,
familiar
yeah,
with that?
yeah,
Okay.
of
Good.
course, yeah.
Perfect. That's where I get all the hadiths from. And so, because if we're talking about preservation of the Quran in the sense that has no letter, no dot, everything exactly the same, bro. I'm telling you right now, there's so much stuff when it comes to the Quran that shows that there were variants and that even people disagreed on, certain readings and whatever. I'll show you. I'll just show you this. So one, I'll show you that Aisha talks about some verses that were in the Quran, and they're not in the Quran today. Okay, so if you go to Sunnah.com, well, I'll pull it up to myself. So let me see. 10 clear sucklings. Okay. All right. Okay. So here's the hadith. So it's Sahih Muslim 1452a. Okay, it says Aisha, Allah be pleased with her, reported that it had been revealed in the Holy Quran 10 clear sucklings that make the marriage unlawful. Then it was abrogated and substituted by five sucklings. And Allah's apostle, may peace be upon him, died, and it was before that time found in the Holy Quran and recited by the Muslims. So, you're familiar with abrogation, what that is?
Not really.
Okay, so in the Quran, it says this in chapter 2, verse, is that 106? Life? Abrogation? Is it 2106?
I believe so.
I think it's 106. We do not abrogate a verse or cause it to be forgotten, except that we bring forth one better than it or similar to it. Do you not know that Allah is over all things competent? So what it's saying is that, verses don't get forgotten or deleted. It's just that Allah replaces it with something that's similar to it or something that's better than it. All right? And so when it says here that, so at first there were 10 clear sucklings that make a marriage unlawful in the Quran, it got abrogated to 5, so it got changed to 5, right? But then, at that time, when Muhammad died, it was in the Quran. They used to read it and everything. It's not in the Quran today, right? And so you have examples like this where it talks about what used to be in the Quran in their time, what they used to read and stuff like that, and it doesn't exist today. And no Quran that you pick up, it doesn't exist. It's not even anyone's oral transmission,
Yeah. Well,
So,
again,
yeah.
I mean, I'll look into this. I wanna look at everything from both angles. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
get an answer. As soon as I get an answer, whether it's an answer that I like or don't like, I'll let you know.
For sure. Yeah, I can't wait to hear.
I'm here to.
Yeah, so don't. I want you to remember this. So
Yeah,
if we,
yeah.
he has your number and everything.
Yeah, he has my
Okay,
number.
perfect. So I'll send you the hadith to give to him, so he can take it to his imam or ask people about it, or however he does his research. Okay, so. So in light of this, let me ask you this: if you found that the Quran did have these textual variants, that yes, indeed, these were the Qurans did have variants in them, what would that mean for you as a Muslim and to your faith then?
So if it had textual variants in the manuscripts, that would not shake my faith too much. The reason why is because, again, the Quran was revealed as an oral tradition, right?
Okay.
So if it's revealed through an oral tradition and it's the same that it was 1400 years ago today, then that's the preservation that we're talking about. If it's on a manuscript and there's, let's say, variations, then, well, again, that's a manuscript. What's the word? Like, that's a That's a Scrabble error, right?
Yeah. Okay. Mhm.
So that doesn't really have any impact on the Quran. That, let's say, the Hafiz that recites the Quran in Saudi Arabia recites here in Vegas. There's no difference between it. Well, then where's
All right. So all right. So now let me ask you this then: what if someone's oral tradition is different than someone else's? If you found that even in the oral tradition, how people are reciting the Quran and how they think it goes all the way back, that there's some differences there, what would that mean for you then?
Well, I would go to what the majority of people are reciting.
Are going with.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Okay, so even if there's variation in the oral recitation, whatever I guess the majority is, you'll lean towards that, and that doesn't really change your faith as a Muslim. You'll still believe in the Quran.
Yeah.
It doesn't really. Okay,
It
cool.
wouldn't shake my faith much.
All right,
yeah.
cool. Okay, so then I would say then after this that the preservation of the Quran as you first heard it, I don't think is I guess the rock of your faith in Islam. Because if it wasn't preserved as you previously thought it was, you still believe in it.
Well, no. It's not that it's not preserved correctly. It's the fact that kind of like I just said right now. Let's say a whole group of let's say this different sect of Islam came and they said this is how we recite the Quran, and it's different from, let's say, how the rest of the world recites it. Well, then obviously majority consensus and kind of common sense would say, okay, well, for, let's say, the past 1400 years, the 85% of people have been reciting it this way for a reason, and this 50% that just came and saying that they do it a different way, that kind of just proves who has truly been preserving their text. Oh, you're good. That kind of reveals who's truly preserving the text and who isn't, who's fabricating it.
But how do you know that majority is doing it correctly?
Well, because they're all reciting it the same way.
Okay, so let me show you. Do you know who Ibn Masud is?
No.
Okay, so Ibn Masud, he's one of the companions of Muhammad, and so here's something that's special about him. Muhammad, when he said you need to learn the Quran, learn it from these 4 people.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I've heard that one before.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. So Ibn Masud was one of them. If I'm not mistaken, Umar bin Khattab was another. If I'm not mistaken, I'll have to double check though. But Ibn Masud, he was one of those special people that Muhammad said, hey, this guy, he learned the Quran from him, right? Okay, so there's, do you have a Quran on your phone?
Yeah.
Okay, go to chapter 92, verse 3. Chapter 92. Chapter 92, verse 3. Okay. So what does it say for you in that verse?
Wrong
chapter?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Let's see. It says, and by the one who created male and female.
By the one who created male and female. Okay. All right. So by the one who created male and female. Good. All right. So this is Sahih Bukhari 49. What is that? Oh, cool. Let me actually go to the website. All right, here we go. So Sahih Bukhari 4944. Okay. Let's keep that open. So it says, narrated Ibrahim. The companions of Abdullah bin Masud came to Abu Darda, and before they arrived at his home, he looked for them and found them. Then he asked them, who among you can recite the Quran as Abdullah recites it? Talking about Ibn Masud. They replied, all of us. So these are people who follow his recitation, right? He asked, who among you knows it by heart? They pointed at Al-Qama. Then he asked Al-Qama, how did you hear Abdullah bin Masud reciting Surah Al-Layl, the night? Al-Qama recited, so that's chapter 92, verse 3. By the male and the female. Abu Darda said, I testify that I heard me the Prophet, or as it looks at textual, I heard the Prophet reciting it likewise. But these people want me to recite it, and by him who created male and female. But by Allah, I will not follow them. Right? So Ibn Masud didn't recite it like this, how even majority of the Muslim world has it recited. Ibn Masud and them, and even this guy, Abu Darda, they recited it by the male and the female, not by him who created the male and the female, or by the one who created the male and female. So that's out. So then, how would you know then that which is correct? Because if majority is reciting it this way, but Ibn Masud and his followers were reciting it another way, and Muhammad pointed to him and said, "You need to learn from him." How do we then reconcile this? You know, with this type of different oral transmission. You know, so what I'm saying is that I get that majority can have, like, I guess that influence. You would think, okay, if the majority is doing it this way, then they're with the tradition. They kept it going. But when we go deeper into it, before this majority that we've seen, that's not how they recited it. They're reciting it differently.
And obviously there's not just thousands, but tens of thousands of hadiths, right?
Yeah,
and
man.
so
That's
I
so
haven't,
many.
I've read probably a couple hundred. Definitely.
Already?
Definitely, yeah.
Only in a year?
Yeah.
That's pretty solid.
But what's it called? I mean, I could do better, trust me. But what's it called? I obviously haven't read all of them, right? That would take forever, and also to like study and really grasp what the meaning is behind it.
Yes.
But I can guarantee, I will look into this. I'll tell you what answer I can come up with.
Yeah.
Because obviously, yeah, like it's I wanna read it, and also I wanna read it in the Arabic. I only know a little bit of Arabic, so I'm trying to learn. By the end of this year, I'm trying to be
You want to
fluent.
understand the source.
Yeah,
You wanna
absolutely.
Understand
So
it.
I have no issue with getting back to you as soon as I can with an answer.
Yeah, I just wanted to show you this. You know,
I mean,
'cause-
I'm open-minded, so I'm not gonna close off and be like,
Man,
you
God
know.
bless you, bro. Yeah, so that's I'm just, the point of this is to highlight. Remember, because I'm talking about what convicts you, right? That Islam is the truth, and so with working with your framework, it's about the preservation of the Quran. Either textually or orally. If there's textual variance, that's fine because there's oral transmission. Well, if there's variance in the oral transmission, then can you still have faith in the Quran as the same way that you do? And so that's just something to think about.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, I don't have the answer at the top of my head for this question, so I would love to look into it and get back to you as soon as I can. Whether it's an answer that I like or don't, like I said, again, I'm not gonna lie to myself, right?
Yeah.
So I'm willing to do that.
So what else is there?
When it comes to why I believe in this, there's a lot. I just don't know if some of the reason. Okay, for example, I think the theology makes the most sense. The theology. Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously, I had a issue at the end of my Orthodox walk as an Orthodox Christian with the theology of Christianity, right? Specifically Orthodox Christianity. Because I'm not sure if you looked into it. You know about Orthodoxy or not?
I'm looking into it myself.
So it gets deep.
Yeah,
it gets deep. You'll spiral out of control when you look into it, especially the theology itself. So, but I guess to stick to Islam, yeah, that would be one of my biggest points too, is the theology itself.
What was it about the theology of Christianity? Because I already asked you about Islam.
Yeah, of course.
I don't mind talking about Christianity. What was it that you were like, this doesn't make any sense. This isn't logical. This isn't even
trying to
there's no
understand.
substance.
I would say one of the biggest things is trying to understand the hypostatic union. I mean, look at Eastern Orthodox, right? The Eastern Orthodox Christians believe in diaphysitism, right?
They believe in what?
Diaphysitism.
What is that?
So, in Eastern Orthodoxy is different from Oriental Orthodoxy. They're both Orthodox, but Eastern Orthodoxy, for example, this is the reason that they split. They split during the Fourth Ecumenical Council. So, Eastern Orthodox Christians believe that Jesus is made of one nature. Of two natures, of divine and human, and that makes up his two natures. The Oriental Orthodox Christians believe that Jesus is made of one nature, but that one nature consists of human and divine. So in a way, yeah, there's been a very long debate of are they saying the same thing or not? And both sides say we're not. Sometimes they'll say we are, but there was a language barrier between us.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, trying to understand the person of Christ to me is very difficult, and it's also very important though, because obviously this comes down to very deep theology, right? Like what happened on the cross, right? Yep. So who died? What part of Jesus died? Did Jesus die at all? Did he feel any pain? This and that. Yeah. It gets very deep. And so, for example, for me, trying to understand the divinity of Christ was something that just I can never ever wrap my head around. The more I try to understand it, the more confused I left. And I noticed that the more I try to convince somebody else that this was true, the more confused they would be too. And yeah, I don't know if you really want me to like kind of have the same conversation with me and him, because we kind of already had that long conversation.
Y'all did the hypostatic union?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Oh,
Not as deep as we are right now, but
Okay.
yeah. For example, that itself. So like, I don't know. I guess what would you tell me? What happened on the cross?
so
What happened to
well,
Jesus?
I hold the view that he has two natures. So
Okay.
I don't believe that he had one nature that's mixed in with divine
okay.
and human.
Yeah.
I don't hold that at all. But yeah, that he had these are two natures that are united in the person of Christ. And so if you're talking about what happens on the cross, the pain he's suffering, crying out, my God, why have you forsaken me, to the Father, I believe that is him taking on the suffering, the grief, the despair that comes with the sin that he's carrying of the world, right? And he's truly feeling that. But and as he's truly feeling that, he dies all according to his flesh. Obviously, the divine nature can't cease. It can't stop. It can't, become a corpse. It doesn't have a body.
Yeah.
So he dies pertaining to his human nature. Feels that despair, that anguish, the pain, physical pain according to his human nature.
So, okay. Obviously, I've heard different answers before, right? Especially in Orthodoxy.
Okay.
But I would say another. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to like have a different conversation from what me and him had, because we had a very similar conversation for like half an hour.
Yeah. If you.
Oh yeah, we can talk about that.
Okay, cool. So then previous scriptures and stuff like that. All right. So then as a Muslim now, do you hold the view that the Bible is like corrupted, changed, distorted, and untrustworthy?
Yeah, not all of it, but
not all of it.
A big portion of it, yeah.
Okay. So this is where the dilemma comes in that we usually bring up with the Muslims, is because, and I don't know how much of my stuff you've seen, but I bring this up all the time.
I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say right now about how the Quran talks about go to the Injil and the Torah. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I'm pretty sure maybe you've heard this answer a lot of times, but I guess I'd like to hear your answer to it too as well. That the fact that obviously Injil doesn't mean Bible, it means gospel, right? On top of that, the same way that we believe that the oral tradition was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the same way that we believe that the Injil was revealed to the Prophet Jesus through an oral transmission, not a book. Like a book didn't come down from heaven, or he didn't write anything down, and he claimed this is the Injil. We believe that the Injil and the Torah was revealed to the prophets through an oral tradition. They spread the Injil, they spread the Torah, but it's not written down anywhere for us to look at and say, okay, this is that, this is...
All right. So go and open up chapter 7, verse 157 in the Quran. Chapter 7, we getting the verse. Chapter 7, verse 157, man.
Okay.
All right, what's it?
They are the ones who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophet, whose description they find in their Torah and Gospel. He commands them to do good and forbids them from evil, permits for them what is unlawful, and forbids to them what is impure, and relieves them from their burdens and on the shackles that bound them.
Only those. We got the same map.
Yeah. Is this the right? Is the one that you want to read?
That's the right verse. Yep.
Only those who believe in Him, honor and support Him, and follow the light sent down to Him will be successful.
Good. Now, there's the reason why I brought you there specifically is because you see where it says that his description is found in there?
Yeah.
Well, the word actually in the Arabic is maktubin, which means written. And so let me just show you that really quick so that you can see what I'm saying. Let's go to... I'm gonna go to the lexicon and show you what I'm talking about. Corpus Quran. Come on, man. All right. Word for word. All right. I like this one because it breaks down the Arabic word for word. I love it. All right. So chapter 7, verse 157. All right. Okay. So, see how it breaks it down word for word? When we get to the word maktubin, it's written.
Yeah.
All right. I have no problem with description as long as they understand that it's written in there. His description is written in there in jail.
So I don't know if you ever heard like the saying like it's written, it's already written. Like let's say your destiny is written, this and that. You know what I mean? Muslims say that a lot. And so when we say that, we don't believe that it's literally written on a piece of paper. We believe that it's the creed. You know what I mean?
No, but they do because it says that they have it with them. So whatever
Well,
they have it written with them.
Okay, so even then though, like if you have something with you, let's say it doesn't have to be something physical.
But it is if it's written.
Again, but we have that what's the word? When Muslims say things like, let's say my destiny is already written. Well, okay, I have my destiny with me, but my destiny is not like a book in my hand.
Your
You know what I
destiny's
mean?
not with you. Your destiny is just something that's decreed. It's not something you possess.
But you can say that destiny is like within me because every person has their own destiny. Everyone has their own, let's say, plan, right? But if you say like, oh, I have my plan with me that's already written, well, it's not like an actual journal or a planner that's written physically in my hand. It's something that's already declared, something that's with me, not physically, but is already prepared for me.
I hear what you're saying, but that's not how the Quran describes any of this, or anybody puts this in this perspective. When it says here that they have the Torah and the Gospel with them, these are books that they have in the 7th century, and it says that they're written. It is that Muhammad's, description is written in their books that's with them. So, like, there's nothing wrong with saying, like, for example, what you said, that these were oral revelations, right? And that was passed down.
Yeah.
But eventually they got written down.
Yeah.
They were in book form, And so I mean, everybody that I've seen understood it that way.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean, I asked like let's say my imam to see if he holds this view as well. If he agrees that like most people hold the view, and to see what both sides have to say. You know what I mean? I'm more than happy to get back on you on that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, though, like just on all honesty, I don't really see it too much of an issue. But again, I'll get back to you. I have no issue with that.
So let me show you why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the Torah and the Injil being written, and the Jews and the Christians, they have it, and Muhammad's pointing back to us saying, "Hey, I'm in your scriptures. I'm written in there." Right. This would show that the Torah and the Gospel, even from the Quran's point of view, that they have presently is true and is not corrupted or distorted. It's true enough for them to go into it and see that Muhammad's a true prophet. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I've heard this before. It's just I guess my like two things is that I still have the issue of like believing that this is really what it means, and that's how it's been believed to be interpreted.
Yeah. Let's pull up some tafsir. Let's see what we get. So if we go to Quranic.com, see some commentaries we can get on this. One thing. Have you heard of Ibn Kathir yet?
Yeah.
Okay, good. We'll check him out. Let's see what he says. All right. Let's go to tafsirs here. All right. Let's see. All right, so we'll look at a few. So here's Jalalain. These are the two Jalals. Those who follow the messenger, the uninstructed prophet Muhammad, whom they will find inscribed in their Torah and Gospel in name and description, and joining them to decency and forbidding them indecency, and so on and so forth. So, all right, so from Jalalain's point, he's physically inscribed in there. All right, they have the Torah and the Gospel. It's written down. Let's see. Does Kashani say anything? Let's see. I honestly don't know who this guy is. I don't know that. All right, let's see here. Those who follow the unlettered prophet, and then either read nor write. This is Ibn Kathir, whom they find written with them in the Torah and the Injil. This is the description of Prophet Muhammad in the books of the prophets. They delivered the good news of his advent to their nations and commanded them to follow him. His descriptions were still apparent in their books, as the rabbis and priests well know. Imam Ahmed recorded that Abu Sakr something said that a Bedouin man said to him, I brought a milk producing camel to Al-Medina during the life of Allah's Messenger after I sold it. Let's see if this is relevant. Yada, yada, yada.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's not relevant.
Yeah,
But-
I think what you brought.
Oh, here it is. Here it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. So I passed by him while he was walking between Abu Bakr and Umar, and I followed them until they went by a Jewish man who was reading from an open copy of the Torah. He was mourning a son of. All right. So anyway, giving the hadith and story of how they had an actual physical copy.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Again, like I said, I still want to just look at it from different angles to see, because like obviously I'm not going to deny the fact that two tafsirs say that there was something inscribed, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a like tafsir knowledgeable scholar or
you're
anything like
good.
that, right? So I wanna see, like, let's say things like on how trustworthy they are, how strong, if they're like upheld in the community, and even if they are, then yeah, I have no issue with accepting that. I guess my question to that would be, I have trouble believing the fact. I guess I have trouble believing it itself, the fact that, let's say, the Bible, the New Testament specifically, is not really corrupted, but that there wasn't some type of what's the word?
Is it distortion? Is it
Like when people are trying to
interpolate,
like a new narrative, like a different narrative, because I don't know if you watch a lot of Alex O'Connor and stuff like that, or like Jordan
really.
Peterson.
Sometimes.
So I'll listen to like Bart Ehrman, Alex O'Connor, and I'll read sometimes their articles about these topics. Basically, for example, if you look at the New Testament, if you look at the four Gospels, right?
Yeah.
What they notice is that the Gospel of John is actually obviously the oldest one, the oldest Gospel to be written. And
Or like, you mean the latest, right?
the latest, exactly, yeah. And so there's a reason why we only see, let's say, Jesus making these big claims.
They argue that John's gospel develops more of a divine Christ,
exactly,
as opposed to the earlier gospels. And so I would argue against that.
Okay.
I would argue that actually, like, for example, if they say, these liberal scholars, they'll say that Mark's gospel is early, right? And so they'll say that you don't really see divine claims of Jesus in Mark. That's not true at all. Okay. This is how Mark starts off.
So before we even get into that, I guess I'm trying to make my point a little more clear. Is the fact that even Alex O'Connor admits this. He admits that the Gospels and the Gospel authors are portraying Jesus to be someone divine. But does Jesus himself claim to be divine?
100%.
Okay. I guess I would like to know that you're. I'd like to see that.
Yeah, of course. Okay. So I'll just use Mark. We won't use John. I'll use Mark.
Fine.
Okay. So Jesus himself claiming that he's divine, right?
Okay.
Now, we got examples like, for example, we know some attributes of God. He's eternal, all-knowing.
Yeah.
He's the one who forgives sins. He created the Sabbath, right? He rules the Sabbath day, stuff like that. Okay. So this is where, let's see what Jesus makes a claim of. We go Mark chapter 2. So this is where Jesus heals the paralytic man, right? And they drop him from the roof.
Yeah.
So we'll start at verse 4. And when they could not get near him because of the crowd, they removed the roof above him. And when they had made an opening, they let down the bed on which the paralytic lay. And when Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Now some of the scribes sitting there questioned in their hearts, "Why does this man speak like that? He is blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone?" And immediately Jesus, perceiving in his spirit that they thus questioned within themselves, said to them, now let's talk about two things.
Yeah.
One, he's forgiven sins.
Yep.
And then two, he also knows their hearts, what they're thinking. This isn't a mere creature. Now, this isn't somebody who thinks that they're just a good prophet. Because even in the Bible, it says that it's only God that knows the hearts of man. No one reads the hearts of men except God alone.
So I guess just to touch up on those two already, I guess How do you feel, I guess, when Jesus gives authority to the apostles to forgive sins as well?
This will show that he's his divine nature.
Why is that?
Because how is he able to give authority to forgive sins?
He was given authority by God the Father.
It doesn't say that though.
So where does he get the authority from?
He has it.
Was that what it says?
Yeah. So within his nature, yeah, he says that the Son of Man has authority to forgive sins.
Does he say that himself?
Yeah. Look, where's it at? Here it is. Why do you question these things in your hearts? Which is easier to say to the paralytic, your sins are forgiven, or to say, rise, take up your bed and walk? But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. He said to the paralytic, I say to you, rise, pick up your bed and go home.
Yeah, so this verse, I remember this one. Let me see. Yeah, so I think it was Alex O'Connor as well who gave commentary about this one, where he says something that kind of interested me, where he says, which is easier to say to the paralytic? And obviously he says, it's kind of common sense, you're paralyzed, you're not going to just get up and walk. So what's easier to say? That your sins are forgiven. Again, I don't really see the attribute to that.
Forgiving sins.
Well, again, if we believe that, well, yeah.
Forgiving sins.
Yeah, I mean,
only God could do that.
So what happens during the 12 apostles when they forgive sins as well?
Again, so he says whatever they bind on earth, it will be bound in heaven. So it's being done through Jesus Christ. It's by his authority that they're forgiving sins, or sins are being forgiven.
But even the authority that he has, like, where is the connection between him and God the Father in that?
Well, remember, as he says, the Son of Man has this authority. So within himself, he has this authority.
But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. So authority on earth to forgive sins.
Yeah, he's here and he can forgive sins.
Okay.
This isn't something that he says that God gave me this ability to do, or the Father gave me this authority to do this. No. He says the Son of Man has this authority.
Yeah, but at the same time, if he doesn't clarify where that authority is coming from, and if he doesn't say, so, like, what do you make of that?
Brother,
I don't really understand what you're saying.
The authority is his. It's not that it's coming from by virtue of him being the Son of Man, being God.
But those two you're attributing, though. Like, he doesn't really say that, though. Like, me being God's son, or me being part of God is the reason why I can forgive sins.
He's saying him being the Son of Man. Being the Son of Man, he has the
So
authority.
does that mean that he's God?
Absolutely.
So when he says, but that you may know that the Son of Man, that's already attributing that he is God.
Yes, because the Son of Man is a divine figure. When he's claiming to be the Son of Man, look. When he's claiming to be the Son of Man is, watch. So we'll go to Mark. Let's go to 14, like at his crucifixion, and then I'll show you why this is important. Him being the Son of Man. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's blasphemy to even say this.
Yeah.
All right. So look. All right. But he remained silent and made no answer. Again, the high priest asked him, are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed? Right? And Jesus said, I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven. And the high priest tore his garments and said, what further witnesses do we need? You have heard this blasphemy. What is your decision? Now, let me show you.
Yeah.
They're not wrong that claim is blasphemous if he's not telling the truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So because he's telling the truth, it's not blasphemous. But if he's not, he's a mere man, a mere prophet, making the claim to be the Son of Man, who is the Son of the Blessed, who sits at the right hand of the Father on high and rides the clouds. These are divine claims of Yahweh in the Old Testament. That's why they rip their robes, because it's blasphemy. He's claiming to be God.
Yeah. And then can we keep
reading? If you want. Torah's close. Yeah. What is your decision? And they all condemned him as deserving death. And some began to spit on him and to cover his face and to strike him, saying to him, prophesy. And the guards received him with blows. And
so when he says these things, right, like that he's seated at the right hand of the Father, right? Again, it's blasphemy, of course, because in the Jewish tradition, there's obviously like no comparison in, let's say, like a mere man to God, right? Even, let's say, being seated at the right hand of him, even if he's just a mere man, not even claiming to be God, then saying something like, I'm going to be seated and you're going to see me sit at the right right side of the Father, that's already like enough for somebody to get killed.
Absolutely.
But exactly, that's pretty much all he's saying, though. He's not saying.
But that's a claim to divinity, isn't it? If he's claiming to sit at the right hand of the Father, so the Father has his throne, and Jesus has a throne right next to him.
Well, you're assuming that somehow makes him divine, though.
Well,
he's not claiming that himself, though. He's not
what is going on here?
What do you mean? I mean, you're saying like.
How is it? What is blasphemy?
Blasphemy it can be so many different things.
Yeah, but what is it? What is it? What comes to your mind when the term blasphemy is used? What comes to your mind?
Honestly, in the Christian context, it's two things. One, it's pretty clear that, like, let's say you're misusing like a theological view of God. And then two, also, I don't even know, because when the verse, for example, that comes in and it says the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven. I mean, you have 1,000 different answers of what that even means. You know what I mean? So blasphemy is very tricky in the Christian context.
Yes, and so, and that's a good point. In that context, ascribing devilish and satanic work to the Holy Spirit, that's blasphemy of the Holy Spirit.
That's your answer?
Yeah, that's the context there.
Okay.
There's nuance to it.
I'm not saying that as a way to like try to like diminish your answer. I'm just saying because there's answers all over the place, right?
That's true. You have different interpretations in there.
Because the Bible doesn't make it clear. I'm not saying that as an attack. I'm just saying like the Bible doesn't make it clear, and so it's a very confusing text.
So would you agree that according to the Bible, claiming to be God as a creature is blasphemous?
Yeah, okay. It would be, yeah.
So if you're claiming that you are equal with God or on His level in any way, that's blasphemous. Right?
That would be blasphemous, yeah.
Right. And when you do that, these will be divine claims. If you claim to sit next to God, rule next to God, sit on a throne next to God, and receive the same worship and honor or whatever,
I would say that's blasphemy, because obviously you're putting yourself at, let's say, I mean, just saying that you sit next to God Himself and you're at His right side of the throne, that's already blasphemous itself. But again, I don't see the link between.
Aren't those claims of divinity?
No, I don't see that at all.
Okay. All right. So.
If he doesn't say it, then I'm not going to believe it.
So for you, it's, hey guys, I'm divine. He has to say it in those words in order for you to say that he's claiming to be divine.
He has to at least say that, or say something that's extremely clear to him being God. I mean, I've seen like
that's where I'm confused at, because if you're going to hold Jesus to these exact words. You have to say these words verbatim, or else you didn't make these claims. If I say, for example, I have students and I give them lessons, what did I claim to be?
A teacher.
Right. But I didn't clearly say, hey guys, I'm a teacher, or hey guys, I teach these classes.
I think there's a huge difference between someone like a mere man claiming to be a teacher versus somebody claiming to be God, and on top of that making it extremely confusing for the reader to even understand who he even is. You know what I mean? Because
there's a difference.
We're going through this right now.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're trying to say, right? Like, I completely understand, and I agree the fact that, let's say anybody claiming to be seated at the right hand of God's throne is blasphemous.
Why?
But because anybody claiming to even be like next to God in heaven, sitting on the throne next to Him is
So those are divine claims, aren't they?
I don't see that as a. When you say divine claims, like, what do you mean? Like, are you saying
these are statements
that He's equal to Him?
That He's on the
in
same
His divinity.
That He's.
I don't see that.
So then it's not blasphemy then. What's blasphemous about saying, hey guys, I'm going to sit on the throne and rule with the Father and God on high? How is that blasphemous?
Because, I mean, I kind of just said that, is the fact that even claiming, like, okay, first of all, we have to clarify something, that we cannot we cannot grasp the concept of God, right? Like, let's say at least the Father. Like, it's pretty much impossible to think and try to imagine who God the Father even is or looks like, right? It's kind of impossible. Do you agree or not?
Sure.
So for a man to say something like, I'm going to sit next to the creator of the entire universe, that nobody knows who, how this creator looks like, what exactly the creator even is when it comes to, like, let's say his nature and stuff like that. For somebody to say, I'm going to sit at the right side of him, yes, like, why, like, who does that? Like, why would you do that? That's disrespectful.
How? How's it disrespectful?
Because God is sitting above His creation, and obviously, at least for us, right? We don't believe that His creation comes near Him.
Exactly. So if a creature claims that he's going to sit above creation with God, is that not a divine claim?
I don't think so, no.
So then why is it disrespectful?
I mean, I just tried to explain it to you right now.
See, it's you're saying that You're saying it without saying it. You're acknowledging that this is blasphemy, claiming to be above creation and be on the same level as God. These are divine claims, but you won't say that these are divine claims for some reason.
I mean, I just don't really see the correlation, I guess. And even then, right, let's say even he is saying this. I guess this would be my next question, right? Like, this is a genuine question that I've always had, is that if Jesus really is God and he wants people to know that, and he wants people to accept him, why did he make it almost like a puzzle to figure that out?
He didn't.
He didn't?
No, again, he made it very clear when he claims to be the Son of Man who forgives sins.
Yeah, that's the Son of Man. He doesn't say.
Okay, let me just let me show you why again.
And I guess I want to give you a couple examples after that of what I mean as well.
I'll show you why the Son of Man, claiming to be the Son of Man, is actually a divine claim. Okay. This is where Jesus, remember, he said, I'm going to sit at the right hand of the Father, riding on the clouds of heaven. That's me, right? And the priest tore his robes and called that blasphemy, that he's claiming to be the Son of Man. Yeah. All right, let me show you where this is actually coming from. Okay, so it's coming from the book of Daniel, chapter 7. And look. So we'll start here first, in verse 9. As I looked, thrones were placed. So there's multiple thrones that are placed. The Ancient of Days took his seat. So the Ancient of Days sits on one of those thrones, right? So there's a throne that's empty. Ancient of Days takes his seat. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames. Its wheels were burning fire. A stream of fire issued and came out from before him, and 1,000 thousands served him, and 10,000s times 10,000 stood before him. The court sat in judgment, and the books were opened. Who do you think the Ancient of Days is?
I'm waiting for your answer, I guess.
Okay, it'll be the Father.
Okay.
It'll be the Father, and we'll see this even more clearly. So he takes his seat. Beasts are worshiping him, and all this kind of stuff. All right. We get to verse 13. I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven, there came one like a son of man. And he came to the Ancient of Days, and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion, and glory, and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed.
Okay.
That's who Jesus is saying he is, the Son of Man.
Okay.
The one who rules forever with the Father, with the Ancient of Days.
Can I see that again, the rules forever part?
Yeah. His dominion is an everlasting dominion.
So his dominion is everlasting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. He has a glory and a kingdom.
Okay.
All peoples, everyone's going to be serving him.
Okay.
And that same service is the service that we saw with the Ancient of Days earlier. Ancient of Days. Whoops, what did I just do? Ancient of Days. What did I just do? Oh. 1,000 thousands served him, right? And 10,000 stood before him, yada, yada, yada. Same thing is said about the Son of Man, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion everlasting.
Okay.
Kingdom, one that won't pass away or be destroyed. This is who Jesus is saying he is.
Okay.
Right? And he says that he's the one that sits on the throne with the Father above the angels, everyone serving and worshiping them. This is who Jesus is saying. Well, yeah, because the service here, the type of service that's given here, the word is palak in the Aramaic.
Okay.
Palak is service that's given to God.
Yeah, okay, so I guess there's a couple things for that. So, one, when you just read that passage, let's say even if I grant this to you, right, that this is Jesus who's claiming to, let's say, fulfill this verse, right, these verses that you showed me. I guess I'm trying to see where the divinity between that is. Because again, I'm serious. Because if you're going to tell me that...
What?
Yes. I mean, because the verses that you just gave me, I see it, dominion, and people are serving him, this and that. I mean, again, that itself, let's say, just the word alone, serving, I mean, doesn't mean worship in the context that you worship God, right? I mean, you can serve your manager, you can serve your friend.
Who do all nations, peoples, languages, and tongues, who do they all serve? Do they serve a man or a creature, or do they all serve God?
Well, actually, I mean, us as Muslims, we believe that we serve God, right? But through that, he also has his own servant, Muhammad, who, to this day, every single person should be serving.
You serve Muhammad?
not serve in the context of, let's say, I'm doing 5 daily prayers to him, but I am keeping his sunnah.
Does
and I'm
Muhammad have
practicing.
dominion over you, and do you serve him as one who has dominion over you?
Muhammad has, as a prophet, authority over me to give things like fatwas, to give me guidance in my life as a human being, like he
Well,
was.
he's telling you what God said. This is God's authority that he's communicating with you, not his own, right?
I'm sorry?
This is so Muhammad is communicating to you God's authority, not his own, right?
Yeah, but Muhammad as a prophet and also as the main center of Islam has an authority over me and all Muslims in a way
In which
as
way?
to how to live.
Okay, but are you serving him or in how you live, or are you serving God in how you live?
I'm serving God through the
Through the teachings of Muhammad,
yeah.
right? So you're not serving Muhammad, you're serving God.
Yeah, we're serving God. Yeah.
Here, you're not just serving the Ancient of Days, you're serving the Son of Man.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the difference.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
That's the difference, brother.
I mean, yeah, I can see what you're saying, but
So how is this not divine?
I mean, I'm down to look into it. I'm down to look into it a little more again.
Beautiful.
I've studied the New Testament twice, but
Yeah.
read it twice. The Old Testament, obviously, is a huge book, and I've read books of it, but I haven't finished it.
Now-
but that verse itself, I just want to touch a little more on it. I mean, these two comparisons. When I asked you earlier about if God or if Jesus makes it clear, even then, let's say I grant this to you, right? That he is fulfilling this, and somehow this claims for him to be divine.
Yeah.
Again, I still don't see how this makes anything simple to understand, because again, like I said earlier, it's like you have to put puzzles together. And again, the same way that you showed me a New Testament verse and you hopped all the way back to a very old book in the Old Testament to even put these two together, to even understand who God is a very complicated process to even understand who God is.
Well,
if
look,
God is really trying to make things simple.
I hear what you're saying, Christian, but you got put it in this perspective as well. In this perspective, look at who the audience is. It's a Jewish audience, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So when he's talking to Jewish people and it's a Jewish audience, he's going to speak to them. They're going to get it, right? Obviously, for us in the 21st century, the ones who are not familiar with the terms and the theology or whatever, we have to go and look deeper.
Well, exactly. That's kind of my issue, is that like if he made that so easy for the group that he was already around, and then made it harder for the rest of the billions of people to come afterwards, then we're the ones that are suffering, having to put all these puzzles together and putting New Testament and Old Testament verses together to even make sense of who God even is.
Brother, that's not something that is making it hard for us. It's called study. If something is, look, if I look at something and I don't understand what it means necessarily, I'm not from that time, I'm not part of that culture, so I don't know how significant Son of Man is. But Jesus is clearly claiming to be the Son of Man. I see the attributes that come with being the Son of Man, riding on the clouds of heaven, ruling with the Father for forever and eternity, and I see that these religious leaders charge him for blasphemy for saying such a thing. That should charge me to say, why is being the Son of Man so blasphemous? What the heck? Son of Man, what does that mean? And that charge takes me to go look into that. And I see, oh my gosh, this is who the Son of Man is? He's claiming to be God, clearly, when I study.
Yeah, so I guess that's just, again, like a very... Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you believe that you only need the New Testament to be saved?
That I only need the New Testament? I believe that I need Jesus to be saved, not necessarily the New Testament. Before there was a New Testament,
well, exactly. I mean, the Jesus only comes into the New Testament, right?
No, he's in the Old Testament too.
Okay, I get what you're trying to say, but I'm saying like his life and him declaring, who he is and this and that, and people, referencing him by name. Is that only in the New Testament?
No,
it's not.
No, so we get Isaiah 53 that breaks down exactly, right?
Like the fifth gospel.
Yeah, so all this stuff, right?
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, okay, the point I'm trying to make is that, not really a trick question, but it's just like a point that I'm trying to make clear, is that, for example, when I was at my last job, I met a woman who told me, because I was Orthodox Christian at that time, right? And I told her that I was Orthodox Christian, and she told me that her daughter recently got her hands on a Bible and she started reading it. And she was reading the New Testament specifically. She started with the Gospels. And she would go to her mom after reading it every single time and say, "Mom, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. It's just so confusing." And I remember at the time, it would scare me so much because I'm like, oh my goodness, bro, like why is it always that when people try to look into the Bible and read it and understand it, they always come out confused. And I actually started getting scared that she was going to leave the faith because of that. I'm not sure what ended up happening with her, but this is just kind of my point, is that if you only read the New Testament itself and you don't read the Old Testament, you don't have that context, then you really aren't going to be able to put pieces together to understand, let's say, what you tried to show me, because you have to put two and two together. You have to read the Old Testament, and you have to go back to these verses to put this verse together and then connect it to make something make sense. You know what I mean? It's very difficult. It's very complicated. So if a Christian were to, let's say, read a New Testament and that's it for the rest of life, they never even knew about the Old Testament, right? Would they even be saved? Would they even understand who Jesus is, who is trying to portray
let me respond to that. So, one, to be saved, all we need is the gospel of Jesus. That's all we need, right? Believing in the gospel, who he is, and the revelation that he brought. Before there was a New Testament, there was just simply the gospel, right? And then obviously Old Testament scripture to go off of. So you don't need a New Testament to read it in order to be saved. I can be on my deathbed without ever having read the New Testament, have the gospel presented to me, and believe.
Yeah.
But hold on. So, but if I wanted to, I can just show you straight from the New Testament alone that Jesus is divine. Like I only did that to highlight, because you didn't know what Son of Man was. I did.
Well, I mean, I kind of do, because I mean, you also see like different people being called that as well, right? So like you see like, who is it? David being called the Son of Man as well.
Yeah, a lot. I think it's Ezekiel actually.
Yeah.
Ezekiel's called a Son of Man.
That's kind of what I mean. It's like.
But there's a difference between a Son of Man in a general sense, meaning humanity, and the Son of Man, who is prophesied in Daniel.
I'm gonna try to get back to you as soon as I can with which verse I'm thinking about, but I swear I remember.
I can probably help. What do you think? What are you talking about?
I think it was David. Something about like God calling David the Son of Man, or him calling himself the Son of Man, but not in the way where he's just talking about his father, like being a son of a father. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
I swear it was somebody else.
It's not David, but it's Ezekiel.
So like, Ezekiel. I guess what's your answer to like, what's the correlation there? Like, if he's not talking about himself as a son of man in the context of being the son of a mere human man,
there is no verse where anyone else is identified as a son of man in the sense where it's not. Just as human. Okay. When it comes to Jesus, he refers to himself as that Son of Man in Daniel 7, who rides the clouds of heaven, who sits at the right hand of the Majesty on high.
Okay. As soon as I can, I'll get back to you on that. But also, I guess that's kind of the point that I was trying to make. I know you said you were trying to highlight that for me, but again, even if we didn't have the Old Testament and we didn't have any knowledge about it, because at the end of the day, Christians always say that really all you need is Jesus, right? Where does Jesus come in? At least, like, boldly and clarify things in the New Testament. So if we didn't even have the Old Testament right now, in a way you wouldn't be able to puzzle these things together and prove what you're trying to prove, because I mean,
what's wrong? So I don't understand what the problem is, because if I have the Old Testament, the Old Covenant that points to the fulfillment, which is Jesus in the New Testament, and I have both. I have the full picture. What's the problem? I
guess that word itself, fulfillment. Like when he says that I came to not to abolish the law but to fulfill it. I mean, again, there's a pretty big distinguish between abolishing the law and fulfilling it. And when he comes in and he says that, and I don't see him doing things like not getting rid of the Old Testament laws that the Jews were practicing, but Christians doing that now. Where's the correlation between those two, I guess, is my question.
With what exactly?
So, like, for example...
So we're moving from Jesus claiming divinity?
No, we can stay on that. For example, like I said, I'll get back to you on the whole Son of Man topic, because I forgot which one it was. I don't know if it was David or maybe Ezekiel, like you said, but I swear I remember somebody else being called the Son of Man. I remember
Ezekiel was called the Son of Man.
Okay, yeah, again... Just so we don't lose time, I'll look into it myself on my own time so I can understand the context of it and then get back to you as soon as I can. But okay, also for the divinity of Christ, these I'm guessing you're going to quote other verses like when Jesus says I am, right?
No, I'll stay in Mark.
Isn't that a Mark?
That's in John.
Is it? Huh?
That's in John, where he says before Abraham was I am.
Oh, that was only in John?
Yeah, that's in John.
Okay, I thought that was in Mark.
Yeah. I want to show the verses about, because their argument, Alex O'Connor, Bart Ehrman, that this stuff developed. That in Mark's gospel, in the earlier gospels, you don't have Jesus making divine claims.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm contending against.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I guess you worded it correctly. Because I guess, like, what I see and also what, like, Alex O'Connor Berman, like, kind of admit is the fact that, like, they'll admit that the gospel authors are portraying this narrative that Jesus is divine, but, like, the dilemma is, does Jesus,
himself.
affirm that, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I guess I don't really see, and sometimes I see that, right? I'll grant that. Sometimes I see that, and sometimes I see the opposite. And so that's the part where the dilemma comes in for me, because it's like, okay, let's say, what's another one? Like, if you can throw me another Jesus claiming to be divine.
He says that he's the Lord of the Sabbath.
The Lord of the Sabbath. Okay. So let's say that verse, right? And then I'll read the verse where he says, that pretty sure you heard this one before. I'm trying to think of it.
Bet you it's going to be in John.
No, it probably won't be in John. No. Because I was actually doing like my studies in the three Gospels itself too. What's the name of it again? For like the four Gospels? The Synoptic Gospels. But not including John though. What happened?
I'm waiting.
I know. I'm trying to memorize the actual like quotation
just
of it.
Paraphrase. I can probably help.
When he says the hour is not known. Nobody knows the
no one knows the hour, not the angels,
not the Son, the Father alone. Yeah. I guess that's kind of like, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. It was that one, and it was this one. Finally clicked. The one where he doesn't know if the tree is in season.
But it doesn't say he doesn't know if the fig is in season.
It doesn't?
No.
Okay. Can we pull it up just to refresh my mind?
Sure.
I'm not gonna try to make a claim that I'm getting wrong. Okay, yeah. So it's basically, this is the verse. Let me try to get the verse exactly though. I'm not trying to just read off quotations. I think it's
Mark or Matthew?
Yeah, Mark. So
11?
It's Mark 11, 12 to 14, I believe.
Yeah. All right. So on the following day, when they came to Bethany, he was hungry, and seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf. Now this is important, that the fig tree is in leaf. He went to see if he could find anything on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. And he said to it, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And his disciples heard it. Right? And they came to Jerusalem. He went into the temple, and that's when he cleared out the temple and all that kind of good stuff. All right. So, one is a detail that we need to know, that the fig tree was in leaf. Now, what's the point of mentioning that? Because when fig trees bear their leaves, that shows that they are in an early season to bear what is called braver fruit. So they have early fruit even before they're in the season of figs, right? And so if the fig tree is showing leaf, then it's supposed to have some early fruit. It didn't, but it had the appearance that it did. And notice he does this in front of his disciples. This is all important because if you go on, he talks about how he's cleansing the temple and all this kind of stuff, dealing with the Pharisees later on, right? This is all an illustration of Israel and the Pharisees because they're dressed up with the appearance that they bear fruit, with the appearance of godliness, but really they bear no fruit, and they're cursed. And that's what the illustration of the fig tree is. Okay. So it's not that he didn't know, that it wasn't in season or stuff.
Yeah, and the verse, obviously it doesn't say that he didn't know, right? I guess it's just like, it doesn't make sense for you to go up to a tree and hoping for something to be there, and then it's not there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, just give me 1 second. All right.
Okay.
So obviously I don't think, and I don't claim either that the verse is quoting it saying that he doesn't know, right? But I guess it's just, again, like, who goes up to approach a tree and curses it without having this like reaction to it doesn't have something that I wanted. You know what I mean?
Does it make sense in light of the entire context and the illustration?
In a way it does. In a way, I'll give that. In a way, it does. I still have like my iffy feeling about it, but I can see your point.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, again, I think that's kind of just like my main point, right? Is that I grant Christians the perspective of like, okay, like I see divine claims from Jesus, or I see divine claims from the authors of the Gospels, right? But then I can also see Christians when they say, well, no, like Jesus isn't claiming, or like, yeah, Christians that say, Jesus isn't claiming divinity, or no,
There's
you're
no
missing.
such thing as a Christian who says that.
Okay, well,
If someone is saying that, they're not Christian. Bro.
well, yeah, by definition, they're not, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let's say followers of Christ who believe in the Bible.
They're still not followers of Christ.
Well,
they can claim can make let's say people that claim that they follow Christ.
People who read the Bible and they call themselves followers of Christ, at least, right? Because that's like the unorthodox definition. But I can see both sides. That's the point I'm trying to make. And I think even Alex O'Connor says that too, is that he grants both sides. He can see a side of Christians that say Jesus is claiming to be divine, and then the side where they don't see that, or at least they believe that, the Christians who are claiming these things about Jesus being divine are doing a stretch.
Well, I think it's impossible to be honest with the text and say that Jesus is not claiming to be divine when you see stuff like what we just saw, like the Son of Man thing, or him claiming to exist before Abraham was, him claiming to be the one who gives eternal life, him claiming to be the one who judges on the day of judgment, who's the dead's going to rise at his voice. Claiming to be the first and the last, the Alpha and Omega. These are all things that Jesus says about himself, bro. It was a dope conversation, with my new friend Christian. I hope that you guys can see that we can have these conversations, man. We're sitting in a Carl's Jr., just kicking it, chilling, talking about our disagreements, getting clarification and stuff. As you guys can see, man, the dude is open-minded. He's listening, giving his arguments as well, and like we're discussing it. So I hope that you guys can appreciate this, man. If you wanted to say something to them, go ahead, bro.
That's pretty much it. The same thing, We had a good conversation. We'll probably have another one pretty soon.
Heck yeah.
God willing. So, that's pretty much that. Yeah, we don't always have to be fighting each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. All right, y'all stay tuned on the next video, man.